Hello, it's me, Maria. It's 8:24 a.m. It is Saturday, and it is the 23rd. Oh my gosh, flying through the month. It is already officially spring. Unfortunately, it's not a very bright and sunny day. It's kind of cloudy. It looks like it's going to rain. But, I just wanted to come on here and make a quick video. And I felt like I need to talk more about the reincarnation discoveries. I think it's been so heavy on my mind that it's kind of preventing me from doing stuff because I'm getting so into it that I'm finding myself sitting down on at certain moments and focusing so I can get more and more information and concentrate on this issue. Um, which is funny because, like I said, I'm working on content, um, but and it's kind of interfering. And I have like a goal for myself to where I want to finish like two more videos before I post them and upload them. And unfortunately, this reincarnation issue is kind of like getting in my way of concentration because I'm focusing on, this CB Braganza person. you know, um, it makes me um, very sad for my past life person's struggle. It's almost like I can see it kind of being played out in a movie in my mind about somebody who really has to survive and just feels like, um, apparently, there was a time while I was here in the United States where, based on my readings, that I did pretty good for myself. But at the same time, it's like I always felt kind of like I didn't really belong anywhere. And this is very much how I feel here in this life, okay? Obviously, I've come to the understanding, for even before I even discovered this whole Prince Alamehu type weird stuff. I've always felt that my existence was more of a heavenly one. And it's funny when you do past life readings, start reading into your past life, you discover so much about yourself. You know what I mean? So, anyway, so yeah, I would say I'm trying to. This is one of the reasons why I'm making this video. I want to just kind of talk all my issues out so that I can move on to whatever it is I need to do. I'm tired of this issue stagnating me. I'm very. Um, I don't know. I try to be very organized, even in my thoughts and stuff like that. So if something throws me off, like this issue is throwing me off so much that I feel like I'm almost overthinking it, okay? I identify, and I've always, it's funny, in this life, I have always remembered thinking that there's certain time periods in history that we kind of like get into. Like I know a lot of kids, for example, who may have been born in 1970s, right? They have an interest in the 1960s. Why? Because maybe their parents or whatever came from that time period. A lot of the decor is still in their home. Their parents pull out these old albums and stuff like that. So they start developing that interest in time period. Okay, and I myself, of course, had an interest in that time period. But other time periods that I've had interest in was the 1800s. Everyone knows. I will tell you what's my point of intrigue for the time of living. I would say the 1800s. Okay, and then also I also had a big interest in the 1930s period, okay, particularly within the African American community, thinking about, how we were exchanging ideas and stuff like that throughout, whatever. So I've had, these interests that, looking back, have been pointing back to my past life, okay? Even my interest in the 1960s, taking my interest in, for example, people like the Beatles, okay? Somehow that relates to my past life because why? Deep down inside, I have a respect for British poets, British writers, British minds, British thinkers, whatever. I have an admiration for how they express their emotions. right? Because I would say most music is based on emotions, whether that be love, lust. Some songs, or maybe we're talking about, even some bands that talked about, lightly touched on certain forms of spiritualism. Okay, I always had an admiration for that. Unusual for an American black woman to do this, right? Why am I drawn to these sort of things? Because it relates to my past life. It is all based on your past life, based on who you are. So this is one of the reasons why I struggle with, what people try to push on other people as forms of conformity. Okay. Now I understand there's certain things that, based on the law that we have to adhere to, like, we don't want to be, I don't want to steal from my neighbors. I don't want to thrash their homes. I don't want to, deface anyone's property, harm anything that belongs to somebody. I basically keep my hands to myself. I mind my own business. I don't intrude on the lives of others. According to the law, that's all I have to do. Now, unfortunately, throughout my life, I've dealt with people in my surroundings who had problems with me as who I am. Now, according to my past life, I was pressured into marriage, okay? For the purpose of survival, okay? Now, um, the thing is, I have always felt in this life that I would rather go it alone than put myself and through another person through the misery of that kind of struggle of survival. Even if you are happy, even if you are dealing with, a decent amount of money coming in, a decent flow, I felt as though that sort of coerced arrangement, at least for me, especially with somebody with my intellectual abilities, I find it is nothing more than a nightmare. Some people, they're very cute. I've seen little old couples, um, especially when I was little. I would walk down this certain like Lancaster Boulevard. There's a lot of old houses that are kind of forgotten about, but around these little areas or whatever, there's a lot of old couples, and I would look at them, seeing them get old and growing old together, and that's not a problem with me, okay, but it's just because of the fact that a regular person is not going to be able to put up with somebody such as myself who is extremely spiritual. Everything I do is spiritual. Everything. Which I think that most people can see this, especially when they start looking at my work. Like, some of the things I'm talking about, utilizing shapes and all these other things. My world exists within a world of symbolism. Okay? Naturally. All right. So I'm teaching other people how to utilize things that are everyday objects into their lives to bring them to draw in. Because the concept of magic is like attracts like. Okay. Now I understand, like, the people that I've been in around all my entire life, not just talking about coworkers or whatever. Unfortunately, I'm talking about family members and stuff like that. This is who people are. You know what I mean? It's not about trying to conform into a certain behavioral pattern, because according to the law, my behavioral pattern is A-OK. Because I'm not stealing, I'm not hurting anybody. And that's all I have to follow. I don't have to follow anything else. According to the law, I am fine because I am not doing any of the things that these people have done to me. The abuse that I've received. You know what I mean? Including the human trafficking and so on and so forth. Okay. So, like I said, we're talking about the flipped up, upside down world. Okay. I recognize my spiritual gifts. I am coming to the understanding. And I've been, throughout the years, I've done meditations and I've done, readings here and there. Because, like I said, I have tarot decks and I have uh, decks of cards. Okay. Um, I have, what else? What other form of divination do I have here in my house? I used to have runes, and I used to have these like, I don't know, 20-sided dice. Okay, I've had forms of divination before, but I'm one of those people who've used things and experienced things so many times in my life that I just kind of put it in boxes and it's just kind of set aside. Okay, I don't really use my tools. Unfortunately, I should have used my tools throughout the process of me dealing with my gang stalking. because I would have like understood this whole thing a little bit better. Even though my old deck does not have a gang stalking card, it doesn't have a cloning card, but there are certain cards that if you look at what that are sitting next to other cards, you would understand that something unusual is happening that would indicate something similar. You know what I mean? So anyway, what did I want to share with you guys today? Just some messages and just kind of talk about it, the whole issue, because how I feel towards CB Braganza, whatever. Either way, either name, either way, it's silly to me because it's like I can tell. I look at this person and I see so much of myself, how I am in this life. Meaning, like, this poor person got sucked up into something that they would rather not be sucked up into from the very get go. Prince Alamehu had to deal with what he had to deal with beyond his control. Okay? He did utilize his gift. He recognized his gift. No one had to tell him, hey, you can do these things. He's somebody who just took it upon himself to play with his own imagination. I have been this way since I can remember in this current life. Okay, I can understand, and I do believe that Prince Alamehu is CB Braganza, and CB is not reincarnated of Prince Alamehu. They were the exact same person, same vessel. It's the same vessel. Like, but see, you can't say that Prince Alamehu is Maria Gordon. You can because of our spirit. My spirit once possessed the body of Prince Alamehu. Now my vessel is in. Now I am in this vessel. Okay, so if that makes any sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's funny how you find out these sort of things. And right now, this is where I'm exploring. My life is like, I can tell I'm getting older. I want to make some sort of memory of myself. And also, throughout my entire life, I've always believed that people, because I understand what the occult means. The occult means hidden knowledge, okay? It is what some people, some religions have basically discovered or hidden from the common people. Mainly because, and I can understand certain concepts of the occult is too much for the hands of the people. Okay, I think the occult has been stripped away from several different cultures. This is one of the reasons why people are kind of like shocked to find out, oh wait, my own race has their own deities. My own, they're like, wow, I didn't realize. Of course he didn't realize, because that's hidden knowledge. Okay, it's about being informed about things and questioning things and following up on them. Okay, I've been one of those people throughout my entire life, and it seems as though I dealt with opposition to my personality in my past life, right? Here I spring up, I was an effeminate male in my past life, and I come back female, okay? Um, I'm very grateful, I guess, in a weird way, of coming back, even though I will tell you, I think earthly life is miserable, okay? Um, it's miserable for several reasons. The fact that human beings are, and I say this, I see myself as a human being because I do the same things as humans, okay? But I understand that I have a gift that puts me aside from humans. And I do understand that humans do things that are very harmful to themselves. They do things and they exist in a manner that not just harms themselves, but it harms their families and everyone down that trickles down from their bloodline. Okay, and I realize this. I see the damage that they do, and I have always been the kind of person who very much wants to stay distant from the toxicity. I'm very sensitive to toxicity, and unfortunately, it seems as though in my past life I had that toxicity. And of course, you can expect toxicity when you're like dealing with a marriage of convenience, because you're not just dealing with your partner. Apparently, you're dealing with other people who feel entitled to tread upon your life. Okay. mankind has problems. Okay, I fully get this, and I know that I've always kind of set myself apart, not on like on not like, in front of people. I didn't mean to be targeted, and then people kind of zoom in on my personal life. But I just, I've been looking and understanding things for a very long time, not just in my past lives, but in this life too. And I'm just trying to do what's right for me. Okay, so anyway, my thoughts. Okay, so my grandma, all these years, was actually my daughter. This does explain the reason why when she passed away. Because see, I only had like a very light touch and go relationship with who I thought was my grandmother. Okay, every once in a while, because my dad used to talk to my mother every Sunday, so I would talk to her and stuff like that. I never actually physically met my grandmother. I've seen pictures of her, and I do remember talking to her a few times on the phone. Okay, now I remember the uh, when she died. I remember, because I told you we always had the radio on. The radio was always on, right? And I had a dream of her. She was in her wheelchair. I remember seeing a picture of her in this wheelchair. Okay, so that's the reason why I dreamt of her in the wheelchair, because I was remembering what the visual of her looked like. Okay, and she was visiting me, kind of talking to me. Okay, then my mom, I woke up from the dream, and because my mom woke me up to tell me that my grandmother died. Okay, what was playing in the background was that song, "Total Eclipse of the Heart" by Bonnie Tyler, right? So every time I hear that song, I'm always associating the death of my grandmother, the strange dream that I had. I remember my sister Tanya was dealing with a lot of emotional trauma over my grandmother passing away. And I would say that my sister Tanya's relationship with my grandmother was rather touch and go. At least at the time, by the time that we lived in Lancaster. Now, my sister was 10 years older than me, and they were blood relation. I don't know exactly how much physical time they spent together in the past, but once we settled in Lancaster, it's almost like people just dropped away from us. But that's weird, isn't it? Like the relatives really didn't have like an open exchange anymore. Like we almost cut people off. It's very strange. So we only, if we had any sort of conversation with, like, especially after my grandparents died, if we had any conversation with somebody outside of our immediate family, like a cousin or something, that was quite memorable. And I did remember communicating with a few cousins, okay, years later, okay, but yeah, I'm starting to see that there was some sort of weird shit that must have been going on. Anyway, my grandmother was actually my daughter. Got it. Okay, so, and I was a little bit hesitant yesterday to mention the fact that I suspect that I was an immortal in my past life. Because, honestly, I understand that someone like me draws a lot of admiration, but there's a lot of contempt that I draw to. Okay, just the fact that I'm right pisses people off. Okay, believe me, I know, but it is. Okay, it pisses people off. And when you say things that seem outrageous or something that seems like fictitious, ridiculous, I understand the kind of reaction that it gets from people. Okay, I'm an adult, and yes, obviously the fact that I consider this shows that I'm sane. Okay, I understand talking about things like immortals and stuff like that is like really off the charts. Why? Because, you know, we live in a world where that's filled with mystery, and it's like, uh, phenomenon and stuff like that is always going to be considered debatable. Okay, unfortunately, this is my existence. Okay, the weird, the odd, the strange, the unusual is what my existence is all about. Okay, I believe that I was immortal at one time, and this was in the form of Prince Alamehu. Alamehu struggled a lot. He seemed to have nothing but suffering in the past life. In his past life, as Prince Alamehu, and that was not his fault. He was suffering from being, well, kidnapped. He was suffering from having to deal with constantly having to flip who he was. And yes, he was a cultured person. Yes, he traveled a lot. But you have to understand, he was traveling not because he was doing these for leisure enjoyment. His ass needed to survive. Okay? And so he had to be able to do what he needed to do to, get on with his life. He only basically had himself. Even though people thought, oh, why don't you go get married or whatever, at the end of the day, he only felt like he had himself. Okay? And that's how I feel in this life. I feel like I only have myself. Okay? Some people they would think, oh, that sounds tragic, but I understand that deep down inside, we have our own load to carry. We don't have, it's not for me to put the burden on anyone else. I don't want to put the burden on anyone else. I understand that, people who live in whatever, you have to pull your own weight in life. I've never complained about that. Okay. But I've dealt with a lot of obstruction. And the reason why I dealt with this obstruction was beyond my control. I have suffered for something I didn't deserve. Okay. But what it is that I possess gifts that other people don't. And they tend to forget that I have a life to live too. I am not something that is a spectacle for the entertainment of other people. It is it's fortunate. I think that my grandson, apparently, who is James Calvin Gordon, who was my adoptive father, and who was, oh, this is so mind blowing, my wife in the past life. Crazy, crazy. But, you know, my father wanted me cloned. He wanted to bring me back. Okay. We have a very bizarre but beautiful platonic relationship. Me and me and James Gordon, my soulmate, we do. It is beyond sex. It is just somebody who appreciates the working of my mind, and I appreciate the working of their mind. And I do remember that I loved my father's mind when I was a child. He would entertain me with his stories, his goofy stuff, and then, like, getting down and being serious as well. You know what I mean? And I understand that when I deal with people, not everybody likes the fluctuation in conversation. When I've been dealing with a lot of people lately, my conversations are usually very kind of bland, what I really want is deep conversation. But it's kind of hard to do that when you're just kind of texting, whatever. But I like the fact that my father could talk about anything. And that's the kind of people I like to be around. People who can just talk about anything. And that's the kind of love that I thrive on. You know what I mean? And that is very hard to find on this planet. So, what other message do I have? Oh, okay. I wrote down there are lots of phenomenon, supernatural oddities on the earth. I just so happen to be one of them. And I do accept the fact that I am a deity. Okay. What makes me a deity is that I possess those special gifts that actually can affect the earthly plane, and I can garner information from distances. I have the gift of the clairvoyance. I have the gift of clairaudience. I have those two things that would basically put somebody in the category of being a deity, as well as not just that. I also have the bloodlines of it. Let me see. Yeah, apparently the I don't know if I should call him CB or whatever. I'm still stuck on Alamehu, whatever. Actually, while he was in the United States, I guess professionally, he was known as the Prince of Mystics. Well, the thing is that he may not have been able to be the Prince of Ethiopia. Unfortunately, his inheritance, meaning his title, was taken from him when he was abducted. Okay? So therefore, he could not be the Prince of Ethiopia, but he was the Prince of Mystics. Okay? And I would have to agree that with that title, that was actually pretty cool in the day. I do understand that um, he he loved the occult and felt as though other people could benefit from it, meaning, just kind of open their eyes a little bit and spread, like, how add joy to their life. They're not helpless. Things aren't as bleak as, believe me, and I'm somebody who's saying that. There's always supernatural assistance, and I felt as though it would be good to open the eyes of people who are interested. But also, mainly, I also appreciated talking to people who were on that path anyway, because, I mean, it's all around us, and if you don't take the time to acknowledge it, you're really missing out. So yeah, I always wanted to do things that were in line with my ethics, my belief system. I felt as though that was an almost impossible thing to do when working 9 to 5. The 9 to 5, unfortunately, the 9 to 5 is orchestrated in a way where there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of illegal type policies being twisted or ignored, and I suffered a great deal in that 9 to 5 world. And um, I just, I don't know, I guess I'm completely happy with, talking about things that will benefit people. Not just necessarily the occult either. I mean, it's just like, I do look at problems that go on in the world. I'm not saying I can solve every single problem, but I do see that people do live backwards, and I want to help. What else? Let's see. Oh, yeah. The other message I got, oh, the whitewashing of history. I did mention this before. Honestly, I can tell you that I find, and oddly, and it's odd, but I kind of find racism a very boring subject, and I think the reason why is because I had to deal with it all my life. That's just one of those other burned out, I cannot even want to, I don't even want to have to think about this. Okay, but I do know that I am kind of a I am a famous person, but I'm also kind of um, at least at one time, I was kind of a hush hush person. And the reason why is because there were certain people who felt threatened by who I was racially. Okay. I find that I do understand that, number one, a big little conversations that went on in my life when I was younger, like the fact that Egyptians were black and stuff like that. These little clues I'm starting to put together, and that was a part of my life. Okay, and I didn't realize it. I was an Egyptian. I had no idea. Okay. Anyway, um, that was something that I was targeted because a lot of white people felt threatened by me as a person. And I don't know, when I think of racism, um, I am not somebody who wants to play in the game. What I mean by that is, some people want to be like world dominant people. What's the word I'm looking for? They're into world domination. They're into, I want to control everything. I want to have power. I want to rub elbows with political leaders, and I want to have that kind of influence. I talk about spiritual things, okay? I am not into politics. I am not into trying to um, show superiority. But apparently, because I am a superior person, at least in traits anyway, I was targeted by some white people who didn't like that, okay, and tried to break the law and use and yeah, basically tried to make me submit to white supremacy. Shocking, right? This is a big shock, and it's like offensive on so many levels. I don't like to talk about racism because I feel as though I'm above that. I sit here and look every day and I wonder, why would anybody fight over this cesspool of shit that we live in? Like, what's the fight for? If you could do something better than me, at the end of the day, so what? I mean, I don't care. I'm literally not interested. You cannot interest me one bit about what goes on the face of this planet. Meaning, I fucking hate it. Okay? I hate it. It's dirty. It's filthy. It's like, you know, that picture of the depiction of the devil card in the tarot, okay, where you're basically dangling on chains of like submission for something that you fucking hate, and that was a lot of my life in the past. Okay, what I mean by that is that um, I was in a family unit that I don't feel was as loving as I wanted to be, obviously, because it was for convenience. There's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of abuse that goes on. Okay. In this system, the way that we live, we are encouraged to do things that are actually damaging for what we are. Okay, there is nothing wrong with getting married, but a lot of times we let our friends, our family, whoever pressure us into things that we don't want to do. Okay, and then we shrug our shoulders and we think it's okay, and they use forms of manipulation and abuse and everything else, or whatever. This is the system that we live in, and then you have this, like, you know, we're defined by what we do to pay our bills, and that is a manipulative system that I think is just horrifying. I honestly ask myself every day, and we're basically encouraged on the earthly realm to seek these things, to feel as though these are the sort of things that give us validation and fulfillment in this life. And many times these very things that we're striving for are nothing more than entanglements that we wish we could get the hell out of. Okay? That includes everything from higher education through marriage to buying that fucking big family house. All of it. Okay? I am a spiritual person. I see zero interest in the earthly game. If you want to fight over this cesspool of shit, you go right ahead. Okay? Leave me the fuck out of it. I have zero, no interest in it. Okay? Like I said, you know, and so when I think about the racial issue, you know what? I understand. Egyptians were powerful people. Okay? I don't, you know, and I understand there's a lot of white people that have, you know, interest in like things like mathematics and stuff like that, which the Egyptians were into. Okay? There's not a thing that you can mention that Egyptians could not do. Okay? I'm very, very grateful to be an Egyptian, but I also understand I'm not interested in living on earth. I'm only here because I understand it's a spiritual cycle that I have to deal with. I have to live it out. Okay, am I happy about it? Fucking no. This is one of the reasons why I'm always in the other realm in my mind. So, for white people who hate me, you go right ahead. You want this place, take it. Okay, I'm not interested in that fight. Also, I got a message that I was able, which I already knew this. I believe that I'm able to assist people in heaven and those on earth in the afterlife. Or how did I write this? It says, I will be able to assist those in heaven and earth in the afterlife. Yeah, okay, so when I do die, I will be able to shower down, like, or protect the people that I care about. That's important. Yeah, and so I already knew that the prince was a well-known occultist. Apparently, he made it a part of his living when he was here in the United States and did very well. Also, I do get that feeling that I was I inspired Aleister Crowley. The problem with it is, and like I said, when you're dealing with racism, people are reluctant to give you the credit that you deserve. This happened to me in this life in the workplace. Okay. Now, I know that I was an occultist in England. I believe Aleister Crowley was born like 2 years or 3 years before I was supposedly supposed to have died as Prince Alamehu, but we know he didn't die. But that's still a thing. And I don't know exactly what year Aleister Crowley died, okay? But the problem with it is that people such as me, C.B. Braganza, or whatever, as a person of color, rarely got credit for anything. And there's a lot of black inventors who've never gotten full credit. They might be mentioned here and there in a patent log or something like that. But as far as like being full-blown acknowledged for their contributions, back then we lived in a very racist period of time. And we still, in 2024 or whatever it is, I'm still dealing with racism. Meaning like the very fact that I'm freaked out about taking out my emails and stuff like that is because that's exactly what it was. I was dealing with being targeted for racism. So, but can you imagine what it was like for someone like me having to deal with that in my past life as a male who, and you know my personality in this life. I do what I feel. I'm not going to allow myself to be uncomfortable. Even if it means, like, he obviously knew, C.B. Braganza understood that either way it was going to be hell for him. And if it's going to be hell, he's going to be hell his way. Meaning, I'm going to be in this shit, I'm going to do it my way. There must have been a part of his life where he could no longer handle it. And he did commit suicide because it was too much. And this is something that I feared having to do in this life when I realized how deep my targeting was. I was angry and upset, and I am very unhappy about the people who got involved in it. I'm not going to go that deeply in it, but obviously it's like, how dare you? I mean, that's the question that comes to my mind. If I don't understand what else to say. Okay. My existence is spiritual. I am not a political person, even though some people would say, well, that's not true because you don't get married. And I am somebody who's taking care of myself. I'm one of those exceptions to the rule. I am not telling people what to do with their lives. Okay, but do I see? I can see that I've avoided a lot of the shit that most people do. I don't want to be a part of fucking society in that way. You know what I mean? So anyway, I think I have wrapped it up. I think I've said enough to where maybe in a few hours after I've eaten and kind of settled down a little bit, I can start on my next project. Because I feel like I need to get this off my chest. I do want to say hi to, who's in my mind right now? I have this feeling, I've been thinking about Paul McCartney a lot. I just want to say hello to you. I've been thinking about you, and I've been thinking about Ringo as well. I hope you guys are hanging in there and taking care of yourselves, and I want you guys to know how much I do cherish you and how important you guys are to me, and have been throughout my entire life. So I'm going to wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.